we need to be able to make sure that everyone can be a part of the clean energy economy, which is why getting some of these residential policies figured out is so critical.
But can you just do a brief overview explanation of how a community solar setup works? How is Qcells adapted to remain competitive in this new post-net metering world? What would you say to those who oppose incentives for renewable energy, or maybe those that they see it a threat to our traditional oil and natural gas industries? What would you say to them? Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Solar Surge podcast. Hey, if you're new to the Solar Surge podcast, on this program, we meet with the top CEOs and the top thought leaders in the solar and energy storage space. Now, in today's episode, I'm joined by Marta Stoepker, Director of Public Relations at Qcells. Of course, Qcells is the #1 U.S. solar panel manufacturer, both on the residential and on the commercial side. And we're going to be talking about Qcells policy initiatives, particularly in this new NEM3 and this new Inflation Reduction Act environment. So, Marta, it's really good to see you, and thank you for joining us for the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Joe. It's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us here. So I guess, as I mentioned in the intro here, with this new Inflation Reduction Act, there's a number of new incentives that are out there, I know, particularly for manufacturers. So how has the Inflation Reduction Act changed the solar market landscape in your view?
Well, the Inflation Reduction Act has just changed the game for clean energy overall, which is what Qcells is striving to do, is be a clean energy leader that provides one-stop shop solutions for our customers, residential to commercial. And the Inflation Reduction Act really enables us to do that in a lot of different ways. I think the most exciting piece is all of the incentives baked into the law that really encourage the onshoring of domestic manufacturing. So because of the Inflation Reduction Act, in January of this past year, we made a huge historic announcement to make the biggest investment in solar in the United States so far. So $2.5 billion, yes, B with a billion, dollars, to not only build more solar panels in Georgia, but actually build a completely new factory in Cartersville, Georgia, where we will be building components like Ignit's wafers and cells, as well as EVA backsheet and solar EVA and EVA backsheet, sorry. So basically, what the law is allowing us to do is start building all the components from polysilicon to finished panel so that our customers know that when they're buying from us, their panels are made in America. So it's really enabled and emboldened these types of investments. So it's very, very exciting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I can remember last year, just availability of materials and consistency in pricing was one of the challenges that we faced. In addition to the podcast, I also have a solar sales business. So I am very close to the ground in that sense, as far as what the installers are dealing with in terms of being able to get equipment, being able to get the equipment successfully installed. So it does sort of feel nice to know that a lot of this equipment now is coming here locally from the southeastern United States. In Georgia.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm going to be visiting your facilities in Dalton and Cartersville tomorrow to get a little bit of an inside view of the assembly line and the manufacturing process. So I'm really looking forward to that. And of course, we'll be sharing a lot of those videos with the audience here in the near future.
Our newest facility in Dalton. So we actually expanded our footprint because of the Inflation Reduction Act. And so we're going to be making thousands more panels there. In fact, the total count of our panel production in Dalton will be about 30,000 panels a day. And you're going to see that new expansion when you go down there. So it'll be really fun.
Yep, absolutely. Looking forward to it. I think that they refer to it as Dalton 1 and Dalton 2 facilities, as well as the new Cartersville facility that's under construction. So again, we're going to be touring the facility. We'll give the audience a view here. And again, folks that don't know, so Qcells is the #1 U.S. solar panel manufacturer, and they are committed to making their U.S. market modules here in the United States, just outside of Atlanta. So we'll share that tour with you as well. So Marta, getting back to the talk on policy now, so we are in the post-net metering world now, right? For as long as I've been in the business, I know California has sort of been the trendsetter in terms of utility policy towards solar. And where we once had very generous one-for-one net metering programs across the country, now California is sort of leading the way to more of this sort of avoided cost or import-export, where you can have pretty steep differences in the rates for importing and exporting electricity. In other words, when you're selling solar back to the power company, they are not crediting you the full amount as what they charge you when you're buying it from them. So the payback has changed a little bit. How has Qcells adapted to remain competitive in this new post net metering world?
Yeah, it's really tough. So I actually live in California. I have Qcells panels on my house, and I rushed to get grandfathered into net metering 2.0 because the benefit was so good, the 1-to-1 ratio. Now it's a 75% less that customers are going to be getting for the power that they're producing on their roofs. And that's a big problem, and we're seeing that the trickle effect of that already. We're seeing thousands of people losing their jobs, and we're worried that installers will shutter. As you said, California was kind of like the trendsetter, this like beacon of like hope for the clean energy industry. And I was a part of creating the policy around net metering 2.0 years and years ago. And it was really exciting because we saw what it could do in terms of getting solar on people's roofs and cutting down their costs. So this is a big problem. This really is a setback for folks that really want to take the clean energy into their own hands and really control their energy bills. And so, one, I think, hopefully the California Public Utilities Commission will rethink their decision. It's a regulatory body. They can rethink things. Hopefully they do. But yes, we do need to continue to adapt and make sure that customers still can make that choice, that want to make the choice to go solar. And so that's why we offer a lot of great tools. We offer financing for our customers to make it really, really easy for them to get competitive rates for the leases of their panels. And then, of course, we provide financing, but then we also provide the installation services if you're in California. And then we provide the panels. So you know that you have this really great company backing all of these different steps along the solar journey to make sure it's really, really easy for you to adapt solar. But even with all the things that we can do in terms of financing and making sure that we're providing products that are competitive on a price point, we really do need to get the policy right. Because the 30% tax credit that made available to residential customers through the Inflation Reduction Act is really great. But what we need to do is continue to incentivize that through smart policy making. So hopefully that can get resolved.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if we can make a move back towards a more equal 1-for-1 or even 2-for-1 type situation, that would be great. But Marta, of course, what we're seeing a lot in California is that homeowners that are choosing to go solar now are choosing to go solar with battery storage, so that they're somewhat protected from having to even sell back to the power company. What a lot of them are doing now is saying, hey, look, I'm going to put batteries on with my solar. Instead of selling it back to the power company for a discounted rate, I'll just store it in my battery, and then I'll just run off my battery at nighttime instead of having to buy from the power company. And then the next day the solar recharges the battery, and they can kind of repeat that cycle. So I guess that's probably a good lead into our next topic here, which is that, as solar with battery storage is becoming mainstream, can you tell me a little bit more about Qcells' strategy for battery storage? Because I got to tell you, Marta, and I don't know if you were at RE Plus this year in Las Vegas, but there
Nice.
were dozens of new, okay, but dozens of new batteries that popped up. And these are brands I've never heard of. And it's like everybody has their own battery now. It's like, what's going on here? But now that this is really becoming a mainstream and it's a competitive space, tell me about what's Qcells' strategy for battery storage and how do you intend to win?
Yeah, so batteries are so cool. And you're right, like putting a battery, coupling that with your solar system is a really great way to just continue to power your own home and, not have to worry about some of the poor decisions regulators are making. Which is why when you buy solar from us, you can also buy a battery system from us and we will install them both for you. So again, it's not just we provide financing and leasing support, installation support, and we make the panels for you to go on your roof, but we also can get you a battery as well and work with our customers to make sure that they're getting all the right equipment, the right sizing and all of that to make sure that your home is completely self-sustaining. So that we're a one-stop shop energy solutions provider. So if you want to be completely powered by clean energy night and day, we can provide the storage and solar systems to make that happen.
Great. And that is another big trend that I noticed at RE Plus this year as well, which is that, in the past, you may have pieced together different components from different manufacturers. You might have a solar panel from one company, inverter from a different company, a different battery, a different monitoring software. Now what we're seeing really is more of this integration and everything kind of coming onto one platform. whether it's the Qcells platform. I know SolarEdge has their sort of ecosystem. They call it the SolarEdge home ecosystem. But that is another trend that I'm seeing, is that for homeowners too, it's not so much having to pick and choose individual components anymore, but it's more like choose which platform you want, and then that platform is going to provide everything you need. Now, Qcells, you all have taken it further than I've seen others, because you're also providing the solar modules themselves, which of all these different components that make up the system, the modules themselves have been sort of the best to play along with other vendors. They do interoperate pretty well as long as the voltage is in spec. The other equipment manufacturers can work with it. But you all are providing the solar modules themselves, as well as batteries and inverters, but then also providing some of the more sort of financial and administrative services that go into the solar solution too, like the financing and even some leasing programs I understand are going to be available in the near future.
Absolutely. We want it to be so easy for people to make the jump. If you look at polling across the board, people want to go solar. They really do. The benefits are massive. I mean, now that I have a solar system on my house, I'm like so amazed. I'm like, I look at my, how much energy I'm making every single day, and
Right.
I haven't gotten a bill in months. It's incredible. And that means that I can put that money into other things. It means I can, go out to dinner, or I can, put it down on car payments. It's just an incredible thing. And so as Qcells, we understand that people want this. And so we want to make it as easy as possible for them to make that decision. So working with us, we just take care of it all. And we are here, we're going to be here for the long haul. So we are not going anywhere, which is why we want to make sure that our customers feel like they're taken care of even after these systems are installed.
Yep. That's so important too, because I talk to a lot of homeowners out there, a lot of salespeople and contractors too, but I talk to a lot of homeowners out there, and so much of their focus, can trend toward, hey, I want to make sure I get the best individual component, or many of them, they just focus on the price. Hey, I want to make sure I just get the cheapest price. But the way you really want to look at this is a total solution. And it's a 25-year relationship. This is not going to be one of those quick, just get the panels in and then you can move on. This is one of those things where you're going to have a 25-year relationship with that provider, whether it's the contractor, the financing company, the warranty providers for the different equipment. And so I guess with Qcells, you can essentially have all of that from one partner, right? So there's one person to call, there's one entity to take responsibility, because that's the other thing that was super frustrating. And I remember back when I was a contractor in the installation business, when you have 4 or 5 different companies' equipment involved in a project, and the overall system doesn't work, you end up in a situation where the different vendors are just pointing fingers at each other. Nobody is stepping up and taking responsibility for getting a totally working, functioning system for the homeowner. And I think that's another advantage of kind of having everything on one platform. Just from my perspective as a former installer.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I don't want to be on the phone with 4 different companies trying to figure out how to get things to work. I want to be able to make one phone call and make sure that my system is taken care of, that my financing is working out, that the boxes are checked. And so, I mean, and with the Inflation Reduction Act, kind of bringing it back to the policy, like there are incentives for residents to make these decisions. And so if you decide that you can go solar plus storage and get that 30% tax credit, then that also means you can run your home completely on solar power. That means go get your induction stove, get your solar water heater. Like we are enabling people to make decisions in the long run that make their homes healthier and that makes their home more affordable to live in. And so that's why we need to continue to build off the Inflation Reduction Act to make it easier and easier and easier for people to make that jump. And it can't just be for folks that can afford it right now. We need to be able to make sure that everyone can be a part of the clean energy economy, which is why getting some of these residential policies figured out is so critical.
Yeah. Well, let's talk more about that, because we already, mentioned net metering 3, and certainly I know we would like to see things go back towards more of an equitable 1-for-1, or close as possible 1-for-1 net metering. I don't know if we're going to get that or not, but we'll see. I guess in your view, what are the other changes that are most needed now from an energy policy standpoint?
Yeah, so I actually want to highlight that earlier this year, I don't know if you saw, the vice president was at our factory because we were celebrating the biggest sale of community solar ever. We work with Summit Ridge Energy. They're a big community solar developer, and we are making sure that our panels are getting into communities with this developer for folks that can't get rooftop solar, because not everybody can. Sometimes you're living in an apartment building, you're living in a condo, you have a lot of shade over your house, it just doesn't make sense, or you don't have the financial ability to do it. And that's why community solar, I think, is an incredibly important part of this puzzle. And we're seeing it grow. It was a very small part of the sector, but with the Inflation Reduction Act, we are seeing that growth. And Qcells is excited that our panels are going to be a part of that change. But we need to continue to see more there. I would say the other thing that's really important, at the end of the day, also, we are a manufacturer, not just a service provider, energy provider in a lot of ways, but we are building these panels here, and we want to make sure that our panels are going to be built here for the long run. We want to make sure that not just the finished module is made in America, but every single piece is also made in America. Right now, a lot of those components are not made currently in the United States. So like wafer, we're the only wafer manufacturer that's currently has a facility being built to build wafers. And wafers are critical for any sort of panel that's polysilicon based. And 95% of all panels used are polysilicon based. So we need to make sure that there are more wafer and subcomponents built here so that we can have a healthier global economy. So as the IRA continues to define itself and continue to define policy, that's something we need to make sure we're looking at, is how are we continuing to incentivize the onshoring of the solar component and supply chain. And then beyond that, continuing to build off the IRA to make sure that incentives for the homeowner continues to grow. Because right now, the biggest issue for going solar for residents is the upfront cost, right? So how do we make sure that we're addressing that? How are we looking at that and making sure that the initial step towards solar is the easiest step towards solar, that you're not waiting down the line sometimes for some of these benefits. So we need to continue to build off of that. So I'd say overall, we really need to continue to incentivize the onshoring of the supply chain here and continue to make sure that customers can easily access this technology, regardless of income.
That's great. That's great. Now, Marta, for those who are watching this who are not industry people like ourselves, can you explain a little bit more about what is the community solar model? How does the community solar model work? I know a lot of folks are going to be familiar with net metering and rooftop solar, but can you just do a brief overview explanation of how a community solar setup works?
Yeah, so these are like they're smaller solar systems. So a lot of people are probably, they've seen the rooftop solar stuff. They've driven, through America, and they see these beautiful landscapes with solar panels. But these are like smaller systems that are embedded in communities that service that community, right? So it helps with delivering clean energy solutions to the community that it exists in, which then helps drive down costs. It makes the grid way more reliable, especially if you're putting a storage system with a community solar system. And then also just make sure that, that you're not dealing with blackouts, I live in California, a lot of our electricity is turned off during the day, so having some of these systems there that really helps continue to ensure that you keep the lights on, it's really helpful. So these are just their projects to serve the community, and that's what they're there for. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So you touched on what was actually going to be my next question too. This other trend that we're seeing this year is the reshoring of the solar supply chain, right? We had all these issues last year with availability of materials and long international supply chains. And so I would say that's another overall high level industry trend is the reshoring of the solar supply chain. And I think a good illustration of that is what you all are already doing in the investment in Georgia, which I'll be visiting tomorrow. But why is Made in USA a priority for Qcells?
Oh my gosh, for so many reasons. One, we have an incredible workforce to tap here. Just people that are ready to go, that are ready or excited to get ready to go. We definitely have a lot of training to do, and Qcells is doing a lot of that and partnering with training programs in Georgia, like Quick Start, to get folks into the clean energy economy and making into those jobs. But we just have a very excited and hungry workforce and a really educated workforce. So that's one really important piece. I think the other thing is as we saw, and you mentioned earlier, during the pandemic, the supply chain disruptions were really, really frustrating. People could not get their solar panels. Customers could not get them. They were sitting on ships, or we just could not get our materials to get the work done. And so if all of our components are made under our roof in Georgia, then we can easily get our panels assembled and make sure that we're delivering for our customers, right? So it's just having control over the supply chain is really important, just for making sure our customers are getting what they need from us. The other really important piece is on the sustainability side. And this one I think is kind of overshadowed a lot, but we have a cleaner grid in America than other countries that are manufacturing solar components. So just by the nature of building solar in America, our solar panels just carry a lower carbon footprint. But Qcells is going even further than that because we believe that sustainability should be at the heart of what we're doing. And so that's why we are partnering with REC Silicon out in Moses Lake, Washington. They just turned on their factory. We'll be buying polysilicon from them, 100% of their poly. We'll be bringing that to Cartersville to make our panels. And polysilicon is one of the most energy intensive parts of the panel. And in Moses Lake, they're almost 100% powered by hydro, which means that is a very low carbon footprint. So that's huge too. But also from like a shipping standpoint, bringing components from all over the globe carries a huge carbon footprint as well. So if we're really controlling the shipping within the United States, within Georgia, it really allows us to lower our carbon footprint just from a shipping standpoint. So there's a lot of benefits to onshoring the supply chain here from a sustainability standpoint.
I'm glad you mentioned that, and that was actually going to be the next question that I asked you here. But I can remember, especially in the earlier days of solar, that was one of the areas where the industry really got a bad rap. And I would even see it sometimes. People would comment on the YouTube videos like, "Hey, yeah, you're using that battery, but do you know where those chemicals come from to make that battery and how bad it is?" Electric vehicles. You may have seen some of that similar blowback to
Oh yeah.
electric vehicles. That the manufacturing of them and the raw materials that it takes to make these systems. A lot of the times it comes from pretty rough places with not the most best track record in terms of humane and safe, clean and safe working environments. But since we're on the topic of sustainable manufacturing or sustainably made solar, what is Qcells doing specifically, other than bringing things physically closer here to the U.S.? What else is Qcells doing to promote sustainably made solar?
Yeah, I think picking really smart partners like REC Silicon that to help build some of these components. Really thinking about where are we operating, right? I mean, even just our buildings itself, like we have offices in California and DC, and these are like LEED certified, really thinking about what is our footprint from where our people are sitting. But we also are going to be competing for an eco label. It's called EPEAT. And that hopefully we will get this eco label. We're confident that we will. Next year we will get that, so that when customers are looking for sustainably made products, they can look for this eco label and know that when they're buying from us, it'll have that on there, the EPEAT certified solar panel. They know that we have hit these really intense and important benchmarks on sustainability. So that's something that we really want to prove to our customers, that we are taking this seriously. It's also a big reason why companies like Microsoft want to partner with us, because Microsoft has some of the most ambitious carbon reduction goals out of a company. And so working with us helps them meet that even faster, because it's not only they're going to be powered by solar, but they're going to be powered by really eco-friendly, sustainably made solar. So that's really important to us as a company, for sure.
Excellent. Well, it is nice to see some progress in that area as well. So we're sort of practicing what we preach, so to speak.
Yeah.
Now, as you know, though, renewable energy, our industry does have its opponents, and I would be curious, what would you say to those who oppose incentives for renewable energy, or maybe those that they see it a threat to our traditional oil and natural gas industries? What would you say to them?
I would say, do you like lower energy bills? Do you like saving on your energy bill? Do you like having control over when your lights are on or off? Like I do personally. Are you supportive of national security? Are you supportive of worker rights? Going solar hits a lot of important buckets, and really hits a lot of values that I think we all can agree are really important, which is that we should be able to live in a healthy community. We should be able to live affordably um, every day. And so I think for me, and also, yes, I understand we are in an energy transition moment. And I think it's really important that we're not leaving the workers behind that have really dedicated their careers to powering America with oil and gas and coal. So we need to make sure that they are part of the conversation and that they are also working with us and working for us so they can continue to parlay these amazing skills that they've adapted over the years into the clean energy, into clean energy technology. But I would say overall, clean energy is an amazing way to cut costs, to make our grid way more resilient, to address national security issues, and really continue to support American manufacturing, which has been in retreat for like 40 years and was, I mean, I'm from Detroit. I know what it looks like when manufacturers leave. And the manufacturing era, when, was what created the middle class. It allowed people to buy homes and go to college. And so to see that coming back definitely is enabling more of that in America. And I think that's very exciting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think people can get very passionate on either side of this, but the way I look at it, solar is a nonpartisan issue. I mean, solar is good for the individual, as we mentioned, right? It allows the individual to take control of their own energy situation. Solar is good for the individual's finances to help save money, but solar is also good for national security. I mean, energy security is national security. And the more that we can produce for ourselves, maybe not on a whole nationwide level, but on the household level, I mean, the technology is here now, solar and batteries, that you can become energy independent on a household level. So why wouldn't you want to do that?
Right.
But then, as you also rightly said, I mean, solar is a big, it's a big job creator here in the United States, both on the installation side and on the manufacturing side. So I just think it's good all around, regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum. Solar, renewable energy just makes sense for America.
Yeah, and we're seeing that. I mean, we're in Georgia, you know, and which is a very, politically vibrant state. And we have worked so closely with Governor Kemp's administration. I mean, we built our shop there in 2019 because they saw the benefits of bringing manufacturing jobs to Georgia. And then Senator Ossoff, a Democrat, is the one who spearheaded the tax credits for solar in the IRA. So what we're seeing is that both sides of the aisle see the benefits of this, whether it's addressing the climate crisis or making sure that we're bringing jobs to communities. It is a win-win all around.
Absolutely. Well, we're looking forward to see what the next few years have in store in the solar market. Again, folks, today we've been having this podcast interview with Marta Stoepker. She is the Director of Public Relations at Qcells, which again is the #1 solar panel manufacturer in terms of volume, both for residential and for commercial systems here in the United States. Hey, Marta, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience before we end today's podcast?
I will say I've been working in energy policy for about 15 years, and this is the most excited I've ever been. I think what we're seeing is this wonderful resurgence of innovation in manufacturing and energy in America, and it is absolutely incredible to see. So, what a time to be alive, and what a time to be part of energy policy in America today. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, it's been great. And of course, solar's never a dull moment in solar, right? They call it the solar coaster. So it's always exciting. Things are changing, but things are getting better. Things are evolving and maturing. And I think Qcells is one of those companies that's leading the way. So, Marta, with that, I will let you get back to your afternoon. Thanks again for spending time with the Solar Surge audience today. And again, folks, this is the podcast where we talk to the top business leaders and thought leaders in the solar and energy storage space. So if you're interested in having your business or product or technology featured on the Solar Surge channel, feel free to reach out to our media team at the link below, and we can discuss how we can help you do that. But that pretty much does it for today's podcast. As always, I'm Joe Ordia here, encouraging you to get prepared and be empowered. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.